Good morning. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2020 at 12:16 p.m. Today is the first day of Women's History Month. So I get 2 months in a row. I get Black History Month and Women's History Month. So I am fortunate, so is Alderwoman Boyd. Today is the meeting of the Streets, Traffic, and Refuse Committee meeting, and it is called to order. Madam, oh, I'm sorry, not Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk. Hello, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
oh, you're going to be the clerk today. Okay.
Yes, I will.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Bosley.
Present.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderwoman Swicer.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel. Chairwoman Tyus.
Present.
President Reed.
We don't normally call the president for roll unless he is here. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I'll send you my bill for training.
6th president.
Thank you.
I
All
was
right.
gonna say, Lamont, you're gonna be trained today. Trust me.
Okay. The next order of business is to approval of the minutes from Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, February 16th, 2022.
So
I move we approve them. I so move. Second.
Okay, Madam, I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, you're messing my mojo up because I'm used to saying Madam Clerk, but Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin. Alderwoman Swicer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel. Chairwoman Tyus.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion to approve the minutes of February 16th, 2022. The next item is board bills for review. And the first board bill up is Board Bill 185. And Mr. Clerk, could you read the introduction for Board Bill 185, please?
Board Bill number 185, introduced by Alderman Jesse Todd, an ordinance authorizing the honorary street name Dr. Samuel W. Hylton Jr. Way, pursuant to Ordinance 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of Fountain Avenue and Aubert Avenue and run east on Fountain Avenue to the intersection of Fountain Avenue and Bayard Avenue.
Alderman Todd, you are free to present Board Bill 185 before the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Streets Committee, for hearing this bill. This bill is by is to rename Fountain Park, to rename it, honorary name it Dr. Hylton, Dr. Samuel W. Hylton Jr. Dr. Hylton has an extensive record in the 18th ward. I knew Dr. Hylton for many, many years myself. His educational achievement, he received a bachelor's degree in history and political science from Morehouse College in 1949, Atlanta, Georgia. Received his master's of divinity degree and an honorary doctorate degree from Christian Theological Seminary in Indianapolis, Indiana. Received a doctorate of ministry degree from Eton Theology Seminary. Ministerial leadership at Centennial Christian Church. Dr. Hylton began his servant's ministry in October 1961 at Centennial Christian Church, where he served faithfully for almost 36 years. After retiring from pastoral ministry at Centennial in June 1997, he was named Pastor Emeritus, serving until his death, July 4, 2018. Under his leadership, he started one of St. Louis's first early childhood centers, a Head Start program at Centennial. While at Centennial, he expanded the leadership role within the church, including women and on elder and deaconate boards. This act of equality was quite transformational and revolutionary in his day. He established the annual Thanksgiving Senior Citizen Luncheon for seniors within the community, the Centennial Literacy Community Outreach Program, and launched the Youth Retreat. He expanded the music ministries, starting a gospel choir and leading the way for Centennial to become one of the founding churches of St. Louis Symphony in unison program. Dr. Hylton ultimately church membership. Under his leadership, a parking lot was constructed. A special ramp was built for unhandicapped.
Excuse me, somebody needs to mute. We're hearing your phone conversation.
Dr. Hylton worked with ECHO in finding home for African-American children. In addition, his vision for affordable housing for seniors manifested when Centennial partnered with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and the National Benevolent Association of the Christian Church to develop 3 safe and affordable housing properties in St. Louis: Centennial Plaza, Hylton Point, and Hylton Point 2 apartments. Centennial was the first African-American congregation within the Christian Church to partner with NBA in this endeavor. In fact, Centennial Christian Church sponsored safe and affordable housing well before many African-American congregations and organizations in St. Louis began considering this form of ministry and resource to our community. Dr. Hylton was active and respected on all levels of the Christian Church, where he served as Vice President Moderator, President of the National Convocation, and Chair of Affirmative Action for the denomination. He was very active in the Regional Assembly of the Church of Midwest America as well. He was truly a servant that demanded respect from his family, congregants, colleagues, political leaders, executives, and many more. Dr. Hylton's past community involvement and services is second to none. He was involved in the following: St. Louis Art Museum Board of Directors, Central Medical Center Board of Directors, founding president of the St. Louis Metropolitan Clergy Coalition, vice president of Interfaith Partnership, chairman of St. Louis Public Schools chairman of St. Louis Public Schools Task Force on Violence, and co-chair of the St. Louis Public Schools Tax Committee, the Black Leadership Roundtable board member, St. Louis Southeast Missouri State University and Culver Stockman College Board of Regents, Mid-America's Transplant Association board member. Dr. Hylton worked with diverse members of the community and in encouraging members of the community to run for the school board, St. Louis Public School. Academic contributions. Dr. Hylton served as an adjunct professor for Winston-Salem State University, St. Louis University, and Eton Seminary. Dr. Hylton also had numerous awards and recognition and memberships. Dr. Hylton was a proud member of the Omega Phi fraternity incorporated, and was a recipient of the fraternity's Omega Phi Citizens of the Year Award, the Liberation and Preston Taylor Living Legacy Award, National Convocation of the Christian Church Reinhold Niebuhr Servanthood Award, Eden Seminary, Elders of Justice Award, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, Community Service Award, Annie Malone's Children's Home, Outstanding Achievement Award, National Phi Delta Kappa Incorporated, St. Andrews 2007 Ageless and Remarkable Citizens Award, Lifetime Achievement Award, Morehouse College Parents Association Incorporated, Lifetime Achievement Award, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Minister of the Year Award, St. Louis Clergy Coalition. Dr. Hylton was honored and privileged to travel extensively representing our denomination, the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ of the United States and Canada. His international travels service included Japan, the African continent travel of Kenya, Liberia, South Africa, and Zaire. He also was honored to travel to Jamaica and as a special ambassador for the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. He held membership in the International Scholastic Honor Society of Phi, a membership of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, and Omega Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Those are just some of the things Dr. Hylton did. I'm asking this committee for favorable consideration to name in honor of Dr. Hylton a fountain point. And I will pay for the signs, but they will be played throughout Fountain Point. I will pay for them, but I'm asking for 6 of them.
Okay. We'll go down the line. Alderman Boyd, any questions or concerns or statements?
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Vaccaro.
You can add my name, but I also don't understand why you would have to pay for those. I would think that your park funds should be able to, but add my name, please.
I would check into it. Thank you for the information, Alderman of the 23rd Ward.
He is correct. You can use your park funds.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Alderwoman Boyd.
I have no questions, and thank you for the history and the information in regards to the person you're naming the street after. So thank you, Alderman Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Boyd.
Alderman Bosley.
No questions, but I also like to say thank you for the history. That was a very cool story, man. It seemed like he lived an amazing life. So thank you for that.
I knew him, and he did live an amazing life. He's a very, very active community member.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
No questions, thank you.
And Alderman Todd, I would love to have my name added to that. I did know Dr. Hylton, and he was a wonderful person. And, you know, I had conversations with him on many occasions. 2 things that really stand out is his push, well, a couple of things, his push for education, and also the fact that he brought women up into the pulpit. People really forget that sometimes this is in recent history that happened in the Black churches, okay? And in my own church, I'm African Methodist Episcopal. My husband's Catholic, but in my own church, there was quite a bit of conversation about bringing women in to preach. And it's always very interesting because 3/4 of the church is full of women, if not more. But that still was a long time holdout of women not being able to preach or be deacons or all of this stuff. So this is a fairly new occasion. And it was something that he was a leader in bringing women into the ministry. The other thing is he went to school with Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King started college at 15 years of age, and he graduated in the year before Dr. Hylton did. So they spent 3 years together in Morehouse College. I just had my first cousin's son just graduated last year from Morehouse. And when I tell you the rich history that goes along with Morehouse College and all the famous people that have gone there, and the HBC, Historic Black College, and the fact that they prepare you for manhood. You have a pledge to your parents. You have to pledge to your community. My cousin taped it and sent it to us, and it had tears running down my eyes from the separation of the young man from his parents to his pledge of what he's going to do, all of those things that, HBCs have a rich tradition in history, and wish that I had gone to an HBC at least 1 year. That was a mistake. Both my in-laws went to HBCs. My mother-in-law graduated from Howard University, and my father-in-law graduated from West Virginia. So they have a rich tradition. If I had had children, I always used to pledge that at least 1 year they would have to go to a HBC, because it's something to be the majority, not to have to answer about your color of your skin, to actually be the majority at a college or a university and be comfortable in that. And it was something I never got to experience. But I tell you, what we do, my husband and I do is that we do donate money to some of the HBCs and to the United Negro College Fund. And I encourage people to keep the HBCs alive. And Dr. Hylton was a walking example of what happens when you graduate from an HBC and you come out into the community and you push their principles into the community, and you make sure that they understand how important it is to be who you are and to celebrate who you are. So he was a great man, and I appreciate it. And again, we got Madam Clerk now. Madam Clerk, please add my name to the resolution. And then we have Alderwoman Evans that is here, and she had a question. She had her hands up. Alderwoman Evans, did we lose you?
Trying to multitask. I would like to have my name added as well, if I could.
All right. Okay, that's fine. Please add Alderwoman Evans' name. Is there anything else? Anybody else have any comments or concern? I entertain a motion that Board Bill 185 be passed out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
I move. Second.
Okay, I see Alderwoman Appeal is here, so we do need to call the roll, please. Okay, now you're back here, Mr. Clerk, okay? Are you in the, Miss McNichols playing a game? Because her picture was here. Okay, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel,
Aye.
Chairwoman Tyus.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion, and Board Bill 185 passes out with a due pass recommendation. Thank you, Alderman Todd.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, street committee members. And
Okay, Alderwoman Evans, do you have another question, or did you just forget to take your hand down?
I
Thank
forgot to take my hand down. I'll take it down. I'm sorry.
No problem.
There you go.
Okay, the next board bill we have, because I'm going to handle both of Alderwoman Howard's, and I'll do them last, is Alderman Brandon Bosley, Board Bill 211. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the introduction?
Board Bill number 211, introduced by Alderman Brandon Bosley. An ordinance established the 3rd Ward Residential Parking District and location and restrictions for curb parking within the 3rd Ward Residential Parking District, and authorizing the placement of the permit parking only signs and prohibiting the parking of any vehicle in the district that does not display the required permit, and providing a penalty for violations and containing an emergency clause.
Alderman Bosley, please present Board Bill 211 before the committee.
Thank you. So what this bill intends to do, of course, you all know we got a lot of activity going on throughout the city of St. Louis where people are coming back to areas that, derelict. They park in front of the vacant buildings, store guns inside of them, a whole lot of activity that individuals live right next door to these unmanned spaces, generally called the police, for some type of action to be taking place. But when you're in a public right of way, there's generally nothing that can be done if you just got cars parked there, unless somebody is breaking an entrance in one of those buildings that you see and the police wants to go investigate. There's generally nothing you can do. People generally are up all night right next to these vacant buildings in between where we torn them down, doing whatever it is that they like to do. And the residents will call the police and say, hey, there's loud noises, so these folks have guns, and there's nothing they can do about the guns, and nobody's riding around with a decibel meter saying, hey, that you are too loud. So, and the police generally aren't going to go and mess with, a group of individuals that seem to just be kind of outside partying anyway. So the intent isn't to restrict any and everybody from coming to the neighborhood. What the intent of this board bill is to give the individuals who live in our communities, that live in areas where they have unwelcome citizens that are not from their particular neighborhood, or unwelcome citizens from wherever part of town that they're coming from, even if they're coming from the county. You can say something to those individuals who are parked outside your house now that are not residents of that area, and say, hey, can you move your car along? And, this is a residential parking area. If you're in the middle of the street, you already know you can't park in the middle of the street. It's restricted. You're blocking the thoroughfare. So, it makes sense for the police to have a tool now when we call them, not to go out and harass anybody or tell them we're going to, lock you up. But, hey, you got to move your car. You cannot park here unless you have a permit to park in this particular area, and you're a resident of this area in this third ward parking district. So what I'm trying to be is more strategic about the way that we have police and residents engaged with each other while building that trust. Right now, the community feels like that there is nothing particularly that they can do when they see certain behaviors happen in that community. They have derelict cars out there, and sometimes they're out there for weeks. And, the police even come by, write tickets, and they say, hey, there's nothing we can do about it. It's perfectly licensed. It's just parked in a space that, that you don't like. People left this car here. It's not reported stolen. And for weeks, those cars can sit there. So what this does is give the residents some say-so now and say, hey, all right, it's been 4 weeks. We put 3 tickets on it. It's been ticketed, $50 fines. Can we now tow it? This is a residential parking area, and nobody's claimed this car. This is on a block where we talk. All the residents have went through a process to identify their vehicles, just like they do in Tower Grove and other places where you can look on license plates and see that this is permitted parking. After a certain time, we're just simply saying, let's get our neighborhood together. We can't do it when we have individuals coming from all sides of town and from the county coming through, parking their vehicles, doing whatever it is they feel like they're legally allowed to do. We want people to have fun. We want our neighborhoods to feel like there is open sesame for anybody who wants to explore it. Folks that want to look at the house and potentially come through the neighborhood and see what it's like at night because they want to bring their families there. But we also want the residents that are there now to feel safe from those individuals who do pose a threat, when you can identify these individuals as a threat. And generally our elderly people and folks that are not elderly, folks that are just working on buildings or just living there, they generally don't have the tools that the police need when people are hanging outside after a certain time causing problems to really do anything about it, because it's the public right of way. So this is just simply saying, hey, the whole ward now, that's residential area, is a residential parking district, and our residents, we don't want to put an undue just payment on them. I plan on it being somewhere around $1, $2 for them to get these permits, something very, very doable. And for the individuals to just display them on the windows. And when you look outside and you see, a group of folks sitting there and they shouldn't be there, and you try to inquire and they get hasty with you or anything, now you can say, hey, Mr. Officer, this residential parking after this time. I'm not calling to say anything about drugs. I don't want you to investigate this or that, but these people clearly don't live here. Can you just go give them a ticket? The police officer can pull up and give them a warning and say, you're in a residential parking area. It's not harassment at this point. They're not trying to pull them over and hop out the car and pat them down or anything. This is simply just saying, hey, we don't even have to say that somebody called. It's just a simple, this is a residential parking area. We see that there is no permits on your windows. We're not saying you got to leave the city, but out of this particular area, you got to go to a different block. So with that being said, that's the gist of the bill there.
Okay. This is different than how it's ever been used. So I'm going to go through and ask the committee, starting with Alderman Bosley, if he has any questions or concerns.
I don't
That's
have
his
any,
bill.
no.
I beg your pardon?
I said I don't have any.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said I don't have any of myself. You actually start with
Oh,
me.
I said Bosley. I'm sorry, Boyd. I meant to say Alderman Boyd. I'm so sorry. All
No
these
problem.
BBBBs on here.
I have no questions. Thank you. I understand
Okay.
the situation.
All right. Alderman Vaccaro.
No real questions. I know that Alderman Oldenburg did, it sounds like something very similar on some blocks in this area around the restaurants where they did the residential parking only. So no, I think that's kind of a normal thing. I'm curious what the difference is, but no, I mean, you know, but I've seen it around in our neighborhood over here, you know, in Oldenburg's ward.
Okay, Alderwoman Boyd.
I don't have questions. I mean, I think it's a good thing. And so it's giving more power to the residents for them to have control, because we have those issues, ironically, with the churches around the area. They have a tendency of being disrespectful and parking in the residential blocks.
Yep.
And I kind of presented that to a block to do that, Alderman Bosley, and said, you know, you can have permits where if the permits aren't displayed, then they'll get ticketed, and they didn't want to pay for the permit. So I was like, okay, but you got to do something to send a message. It's not okay to just park in front of my house because you're going to church. The church is responsible to find the parking for those people that's living, that's coming to their church. So I think it's a good bill, and I support it.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next here? Alderwoman Schweitzer. I'm going to be a little out of order maybe here. You have any questions or concern?
Sure, thank you so much. So this is just, if I can ask questions?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
So let me just stop you. Whenever you're on a committee, you don't have to ask them to yield. If they're
Okay,
presenting
great.
a board bill, they have to yield to you if they want your vote, okay?
I'm more just making sure that you're okay with
Okay.
it.
No. That's
You're
fine.
the person I want to make sure is okay with it.
Okay, no, you get to ask questions.
Great. So my question then is, so this is just on residential streets, not on larger streets?
No, only on residential.
Okay.
The thought, those commercial streets that we do have, for them after a certain time, once we get this more established, to give their patrons tickets also, or permits, so we can know which businesses those cars that do park in the residential areas belong to. So what generally happens, especially around bars and things like that, you got the bars that fill up with, maybe 50 people inside, but every single person came with a car. So, on one of my areas, it's not really much of a long stretch, a long prairie where you like to park your car. So they park right along St. Louis Avenue. It's a little bit of a longer street. So, if we know kind of what bars people belong to or what businesses they belong to, they can just ask, hey, when somebody pulls up, like there's an elderly person that has to park in their driveway because of a curb cut, and sometimes they park in front of her spot. She doesn't have a handicap stick or anything, but that would help most certainly. But still in all, we could easily just ask the business, hey, can you ask such and such to move their car? But I'm not trying to hurt any businesses or keep them from having patrons or people coming to spend their money and comfortably being able to get inside. Just giving the residents the tools they need to be able to say, hey, this is, I live here, I'm uncomfortable. Can you get this car? Or, move this group of people who came out of this car.
Yeah, I similar to Alderman from the 23rd, with hearing about this being done on specific residential streets, less than ward wide. So that I thought was kind of interesting. When I lived in Massachusetts for a little while, there are different towns that the whole town would have, each resident would have a certain number of permits. So you imagining that residents will have, a guest permit pass as well. And I guess, how are you imagining that will work?
Yeah, and that's the thought, that they'd have permit passes for their guests too, cousins, uncles, aunties, things like that. And so it's more so for like, it's like meant to be used as a tool. So I don't want this like strictly enforced. I don't want the police coming through, writing tickets for every car that they see. And I know they don't have to do that also. But the way I'm intended for it to be used is for, when once again, a resident is outside and they see that, these folks clearly, don't belong to the neighborhood and up to no good. When you live in either, you can look across the street and see, man, come on, this is not right. Whatever y'all doing over there is not, you're not supposed to be doing it. So it's like, hey, you shouldn't be parked there. Just, I don't know what you're doing, but you just kind of gotta move it along. And, it gives those individuals who do live in the neighborhood, that kind of communication link now to say, hey, do you know whose car that is? And they, oh, yeah, that's my cousin's car. Oh, okay, cool. We know whose car that is. So just it's creating that communication that we need to kind of start looking outside and knowing we can do something about it. You know, we all can now call on this car, know it's none of our cousins or uncles, or, you know, that don't belong to us. Somebody can come ticket that now, you know, and they can do it now in general. But if the car is licensed and there's nothing wrong with it, somebody just parked the car there because they hiding it. Who knows? People park those cars after stealing them, and some people don't even report it stolen. You know, it's just weird. But those things do happen. But just trying to put another tool in the toolbox for the residents.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Okay, and Alderwoman Peel probably has the most residential parking of anybody in the city of St. Louis, because the prior alderman put them all over your ward. I think, in fact, you might have just taken one or two away recently. Do you have any questions or concerns?
I don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And I wanted to, Alderman, did I get everybody on the committee? Yes. Okay, Alderman, if you look at page 1 of 4, there is a blank on line 12 that I believe should say section 2 of this ordinance. If it reads district means, and it goes, I don't know, do you have, can you pull up that board bill, please?
Yeah. I see. I'm looking at it. It should be said specified in, yep, District 2 as far as the district being established.
Section 2 of this order is section 2, because I think that section 2 specifies what your district is.
It does.
Okay,
That
so
should-
section, so Mr. Clerk, we need to fill that in and put a TWO or number 2 on line 12 where that blank is.
So noted.
Okay, and then so and this is kind of interesting because I've never seen the whole ward. I know like I said, Alderman from the former Alderman of 17 kept coming in, and we did a lot. And I have a couple of mine, and it is about church parking a lot of time, or near a park parking, and people just take up all the parking spaces and make it so that people, when they come home, don't have a place to park. But if you're talking about, so all of your residential communities would be under this parking district. But I think part of that whole law is you have to then post that, right, as a parking district. So if you don't have it posted, then it really wouldn't be under this until you actually, so if you wanted to do sections at a time, you know, if you wanted to do around Hyde Park, you could post Hyde Park in the residential areas. Then maybe you could go to another area. Is that how you envision that?
Yes, ma'am. I don't plan on it being all at one time. I plan on focusing on one area, because the way that it's written up, you know, I have to also get a, you know, well, not have to, but, you know, I you know, have the ability to also have a neighborhood association or a neighborhood group work with the treasurer's office to hand out those permits.
Right.
Just to, you know, so I want to get the neighborhood involved. I'm trying to make it more community based, so everybody's now got their eyes on the swivel and you can say something now, you know. So I think if we do it kind of neighborhood by neighborhood and establish how it works, then we can move from place to place. And, you know, the goal is blanking it, the whole thing, though. So as the residents ask, why are you not doing it here? I can already say, hey, it's in the law. Just, you know, come on over here and work with us and we can mirror that. It's not something we got to go back to the table and figure it out. I thought about everybody at one time. Just, you know, let's just figure out how to make it work in that area.
I want to say, compliment you on thinking outside the box, because what has happened is that a lot of people now use quiet streets as a place to do crime. They got rid of drug houses, or they're getting rid of them because that's too easily targeted. So they find a quiet little street and they do all kind of crime. They sell drugs, they whatever they do on those streets. And so people haven't had a chance to figure out a way to be able, if they're not doing anything illegal, as you says, you're calling the police, you're like, this car keeps coming here every day and parking here, and you don't really have a way to say they're not supposed to be here. So this is kind, I never had thought of a residential parking as a tool in the toolbox for fighting crime, but now I'm going to sit down and think about that. As I said, I only have 2 residential parking, one's in Kingsway East and one is in a Penrose neighborhood. But now I will sit down and think about that, and you know how I feel about that. But this is why you need young people. Because right when you think you know everything, young people come and teach you a new way to do things. And if it's something that is not going to, the only thing, I was a former public defender, so I tend to be guarded about people's rights. So, but they don't have a right to come and sit in front of your house and commit crime. So I'm going to have to think about this, but I am going to be supportive of this. And this is an interesting, I'm going to see how yours work too. And so I am going to be supportive. Alderwoman Evans. I'm sorry, Alderwoman Boyd has her hands up first. She's on the committee.
Yeah.
Madam Chair and Alderman Bosley, I just wanted to say when Alderwoman Tyus said, I learned something new. It just to teach us we never too old to learn. And so they do think outside the box. And sometimes we just have to listen to what they're thinking. Sometimes we might have to redirect them a little bit, but pretty much, they thinking about what's going on right now. So thank you, Alderman Bosley.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Alderwoman, lower your hand. Okay, Alderwoman Evans.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And kudos to the young bloods. I just, and I appreciate the things that they bring to the table. I can remember when, like you said, and they don't have the drug houses mainly anymore. They have streets. They just drive down and park at certain streets. And I had noticed that they were using my street and, me out there picking up trash, blowing the streets, trying to keep it clean. And I noticed a car sitting there. I would ask them, who you waiting for? Because I knew where they were parking. They were not for the people that lived at that address. And they said, oh, I'm waiting on George. I said, well, where does George live? I said, we have a neighborhood watch on our block. And so when we see something different or out of order or unusual, we question them and let them know that we have a neighborhood watch. And we turn in license plate numbers to the police. And so they were saying, oh, well, I didn't know, ma'am, and a lot of time so they were saying that George just said, go down 2 blocks and turn at the stop sign. Well, when you do that, you're coming down my block. So they were using the top of the street for doing the drugs. But when they found out that we had a neighborhood watch and that we notice when cars that are not used to being there, we would call those license plate numbers in. So it's, it's a method of trying to just keep your neighborhood safe. And that's one of the, I guess you could say, the things that we would do on our block is to just let them know we have a neighborhood watch. And anytime we see anything out of the ordinary, we will send license plate numbers into the police. Oh, and the word got out that, hey, don't go on that block because they'll turn your license plate number in to the police. So you just have to let them know what you do and so forth. Yeah. I just wanted to add that in there, but that was one of the things that we do in our area.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. That's what my dad taught me to do. Pull up and ask questions. All right. How are you? Need some help?
I also claim his dad, by the way. So and he knows it. I have an extra husband and an extra dad also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else on the committee that has any questions or concerns regarding Board Bill 211? And the clerk has advised me that the updated board bill, which I don't think rises to anything except for a little error that needed to be corrected, is in the drive if you need to see it. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion that we pass Board Bill number 211 out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second. Previous roll.
We have a motion, a second, a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill, what did I say it was?
211.
211 is passed out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you
Thank
all
you.
very much.
Okay, and now we have Alderwoman Carol Howard has two board bills. Board Bill 192, I will be presenting this. So Mr. Vice Chairman, would you take over the role of chair, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clerk, please read Board Bill 192, the introduction.
Board Bill 192, introduced by Alderwoman Carol Howard, pursuant to ordinance number 7033 as amended by ordinance number 71395, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install a speed hump to calm the flow of traffic on the 4900 through 5000 block of Lansdowne Avenue between the intersection of Lansdowne Avenue and Kingshighway Boulevard and Lansdowne Avenue and Brannon Avenue.
All right, Chairwoman, you recognize on Board Bill number 192.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I am proudly sponsoring this board bill for Alderwoman Carol Howard. We are now getting in the flow since we did pass the original ordinance back at the beginning of the year that we allowed the aldermen to control more of where their speed humps go. And this is one that the 14th Ward Alderwoman believes should go on the 49 through 5000 block of Lansdowne. And as the Alderman Boyd and I both know, the longtime chair of streets would say, is it in your ward? Do you support it? Then I'm going to support it also. So I'm asking the board to please give a favorable do pass recommendation to Board Bill 192, which would be to place a speed hump in the 49 through 5000 block of Lansdowne.
All right, I entertain a motion on Board Bill 192.
You gotta ask if anybody has questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody have questions? My apologies. My apologies. Does any board members have questions?
Had she considered stop signs? Just kidding. I was just.
We could add that to the board bill since she's not here.
I know we can.
We don't want to dethrone you, Joe. We want to.
I know, that's what I was concerned about. But if you're taking motions, I'll make a motion. We pass Board Bill 192 out with a do pass recommendation.
Second.
And
Previous
previous
roll.
roll.
All right, it's been moved, seconded, and a request for previous roll. Any objection? Hearing none, Board Bill 192 passes out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the committee. The next
you.
board bill is 194. Oops, I'm sorry. You're doing that.
But next board bill is 194. Sir Clerk, is it Madam Clerk? We got the Sir Clerk.
Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Clerk, can you please read the summary, please?
Board Bill 194, introduced by Alderwoman Carol Howard and Alderwoman Sharon Tyus, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing the Director of the Department of Public Safety or his designee on behalf of the City of St. Louis to enter into and execute an U.S. Department of Justice 2021 Edward Byring Memorial Justice Assistance Grant to accept funds awarded, appropriating said funds, and authorizing the Department of Public Safety to expend the appropriated funds for allowed purposes, and containing an emergency clause, funds, and containing an emergency clause.
All right, thank you. Chairwoman Tyus, you are recognized on Board Bill 194.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Board Bill 194 is unique in that it actually got passed earlier this year through the Public Safety Committee. There were two board bills that got passed. However, and they were signed into law. However, they did not become law because they didn't go through E&A. This is one of the two. I thought that this board bill was going to public safety where it companion went, but somehow it ended up in streets, and it was just easier to bring it through streets. But it's already been vetted in the Public Safety Committee, and it's just a appropriation of $450,000. We did not want to lose that grant, so we had to bring it back through again, and it's already been through E&A. It went through E&A not this Wednesday. Well, tomorrow is Wednesday, a week ago Wednesday, and so it's already been passed by E&A. And we're just asking that that this committee pass this board bill out so that we can get the $450,000 plus. That is a Justice Edward Byrne grant. And I want to really compliment Heather Taylor and Dan Isom over there, because they're writing, and it's really Heather over in the public safety. She is working on really writing up these grants and applying for these grants. And so we are having money trickle in, 450,000, 350,000, 500,000, and that makes a big difference in helping to fight crime in the city of St. Louis, because we all know our public safety budget is the largest. So if we could get more people writing grants so that we bring money into the city, that really does help our budget. And I'd ask for a favorable recommendation for Board Bill 194.
All right. Do we have any questions from committee members? If anybody has a question, just raise your hand. Sometimes we go through it. Nope. Nobody? All right. With that, I entertain a motion on Board Bill 194.
I'll make a motion that we pass Board Bill 194 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous row.
It's been moved, seconded, and a request for previous roll. Any objection? Hearing none, we pass Board Bill number 194 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'll take over now again. Is there any other business before the committee? Any other business before the committee? If not, I move that we adjourn till tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And I'm so sorry again about the time being moved around. We had a little problem with getting the committee board bills announced in the proper amount of time. So we had to move to 12:15 so that we could make sure we did the 24-hour announcement. So I entertain that we adjourn. I'm sorry, I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Any opposition? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. See you tomorrow.